Auto insurance up 33%, used cars up 35%, hotels up 15%, groceries.
The American dream is the American nightmare.
Why is everything so expensive?
Mortgage rates doubled. They're working 4 jobs and they're making $1,000 more than these people who aren't working at all. What the hell?
If we ran our household like the government did, we'd be in jail.
Hello and welcome to The Right Angle, bringing you hot topics, culture, news, and all of that from the right perspective. So let's jump in. I've been thinking about inflation lately. So, we're getting closer to the election, and with that comes understanding exactly what the issues are. And I think really, inflation is one of the primary issues that impacts every American. That is, no matter if you're making the lowest of the low as far as cash goes or the highest of the high in this economy, inflation is going to impact you 100%. So when we look at the economy, there are some primary factors I think that are driving inflation and driving the cost of your life up and up and up, right? So I wanted to focus on a couple of those. I'm going to do a whole series on inflation. This won't be the only video, but I thought this would be a good place to start to kind of like lean into some of the things that we're experiencing. So let's start with topic number one. So when thinking about inflation, this inflation isn't happening for no reason, right? There are actions that are delivering the increases that we're seeing, right? And it's impacting everything from eggs to gas, from medical supplies to refinery equipment. Every single sector of the United States is impacted by this. And, when we think about one of those actions, I think stimulus comes to mind. So that's for me, that's going to be one of the first ones I want to talk about. So, primarily in response to COVID-19, the government rolled out several rounds of stimulus checks and relief programs, right? At the time, it was take action or die, right? Adapt or die. It was very important for the government to take action. So with these measures, which again, they were critical for supporting individuals, small businesses and whatnot. They also increased the amount of money in circulation. So it increased the money supply, which significantly boosted demand for goods and services, which thereby drove up prices. So you have this hot money coming in, this big wad of cash. Everyone's going out. You saw the videos, you saw the things, right? And if you didn't, you can go search stimulus checks 2021 or whatever. And people are buying TVs, doing this and that. One thing that happens with the bureaucrats and we're responsible too as citizens, where these actions are being taken, where we understand that there are some type of consequences in the end, but we don't ask those questions, right? Obviously, we have representatives that should be asking those questions, but they're not worried about consequences either. They're worried about the next election, right? And anyone at the time who did not kowtow to the demands of that time were sort of shunned out. You had a few voices like Rand Paul and people like that, but not enough voices to change the narrative. And I think when you think about where we are today, definitely stimulus is one of the number one items that we can look at. Okay, so at number two, it's the Federal Reserve monetary policy. The Feds have been in place since the early 30s. I think a little bit before that, that was sort of created by, FDR and the New Deal as a result of the Great Depression. And they were meant to, monitor the money supply. That's their sole reason for existing. So when it comes to COVID and the era that we were in, the Feds implemented policies such as lowering interest rates and purchasing large amounts of government bonds, to keep the economy afloat. Now, these actions made borrowing cheaper and supported a lot of economic activity. to kind of spur things forward. But again, it's more short-term thinking from the government because the eventual consequences that we had led to an increase in the money supply, which this increase added to inflationary pressures. If you're asking yourself, like, what does that mean? Why is that important? Okay, so say that I have $100, right? And I am the only guy in the world with that $100 bill. What does that mean? It means that $100 bill is very valuable. But say that some people get jealous, not saying that's what happened here, right? Obviously, I'm using this as an example, but say, for some reason we want to print more $100 bills. Now we say, okay, we're going to print 1,000 of those bad boys. Now that you have 1,001 $100 bills, they're not so valuable. So that is going to decrease their value, which means things are going to cost different, and different things are going to be happening as a consequence of that inflationary pressures. Now, inflation, there's many things that are going to be causing it from many angles, but when you increase the money supply, that's one of the things that can make the money very hot, make the economy run very hot, and that's not what you want in your economy. Okay, and number 3 on our list is going to be increased government spending. The government significantly ramped up spending on various programs, to combat the economic effects of the pandemic. From the ventilator programs, Operation Warp Speed, to some different things like the Inflation Reduction Act and some other things that this current regime has put into play. Now, this surge in spending, which is funded by borrowing, we have to go borrow more money from ourselves, borrow more money from our enemies like China, to make these things happen. And when that occurred, it added to the national debt and increased the money supply. And again, there's that increasing the money supply. And just like I gave you an example before, this is going to be contributing to inflation. And if you think about national debt, I think it came out a few months ago that every day that goes by, every 100 days that go by, we are increasing our debt by $1 trillion each time. So every 100 days, we have another $1 trillion more in debt. You got to really let that sink in. That is not sustainable. There's going to be a time in our lifetimes and in the very near future where some hard choices are going to have to be made, and it's not going to be pretty. The time for us to pay our debts is coming. If I was to use a saying from Game of Thrones, winter is coming, and it's going to be ugly. Well, hopefully it's still better than season 8, but it's not going to be pretty. So coming in at number 4, last but not least, is illegal immigration. And illegal immigration has a huge impact on not just inflation, security, the fabric of our nation, all kinds of things. But if we're focusing in on this topic, an influx of these illegals are going to put pressure on a lot of public services. So you can think about public services as things the government's responsible for: education, medical, food security, housing. Well, I say responsible for, but responsible in the manner of making sure it runs well, right? And with these people coming here now, we have millions upon millions of unvetted, unknown people that they can literally just come to our shores, jump off a boat, disappear into a neighborhood, and that's it. That's good enough. But I still have to go through TSA and take off my freaking shoes and show my ID. But I digress. And this additional demand can add to these pressures that we're seeing from an inflation standpoint. Just for instance, if you think about like the medical piece and you look at emergency rooms, I don't know if you guys have been to an emergency room lately, but they are usually always packed. And the big reason why is because we have these millions upon millions of people in our country without health care. And so they're going to go to those services, and those services are going to become more scarce for you, more scarce for your children, more scarce for actual citizens. And when the services are scarce, those services are going to go up, and they're going to become more expensive because there are less personnel to deliver on those services. And you may think that is unfair, or someone should step in and do something like that, but you can't just create doctors out of whole cloth, right? there's training and stuff that goes into that. So these market forces are going to be interjected into this piece because of the illegal immigration catastrophe that we have in this country, right? So that system is going to play a lot into why things are the way they are, and I want to talk more about that. But the first thing I want to think about is, what is the question? So I think the question to me is, what is the primary driver to all these increases that we're seeing? There's a catalyst. There's a sticking point, and I think the answer to that question is that it's primarily due to illegal immigration. And you can say, yeah, well, it's also government mishandling of certain situations, but that's the same thing, right? It's the Bidens that invited all these illegals in here. They invited them for reasons unknown. We can have our guesses, but you know, for now, we're going to need to focus on winning to get these people out of here. But if you look at just this graph that I have showing on the screen right now, so as it relates to the illegal immigration, you're going to see that there in blue on the left is going to be in millions. And then in orange, you're going to see the median housing prices that we have. And, we just had an announcement that the median housing price is at essentially $420,000. That's the highest it's ever been in the United States of America. And I don't know if you think that's like a good point or it matters. What does that matter to me? I never can own a house. That is pretty much the point, right? So it feels like with all these inflationary issues, not only that, the mismanagement in transportation, plane crashes, baby food, the illegal immigration crisis, the mismanagement of foreign affairs and things of that nature, the wars that are going on, the things that are happening in the country. Uh, you know, I want to think that these are just by a hapless administration that has no idea what they're doing. But at the same time, we have the World Economic Forum who says things like, you will own nothing and be happy. So, if we look at the lines here, you can see there is correlation between the spike in immigration. So you see here in 2020, so in 2019, that's when we had the spike. Trump made a big speech about, keeping the illegals out, and then you had to remain in Mexico created, and you see the dip here. But then you see when Biden in 2020 gets inaugurated, and the spike goes up tremendously. And the spike between illegal immigration and the spike between the median home prices, and we're talking about median home prices. If you go to states like California, the median home price is $900,000. That's insane. No one can afford that. That's why so many people are leaving that state. But if you look at the ebbs and flows here of this chart, you can see the leveling off of the median home prices and the leveling off of, although still incredibly high, of the illegal immigration. These two numbers correlate, and although we know that correlation is not necessarily causation, we can use these data points to kind of ascertain certain, hypotheses. And I think illegal immigration is one of those big things that's driving up everything around us. And these numbers come, like the illegal migration numbers I get straight from CBP, and the median home pricing I got from just Googling trends and things of that nature, and created the chart here. So we're seeing these things, we're understanding these things are happening to us. And again, as I stated in the open of this video, is that we got to really think about the issues. Well, what is driving us, past sort of hatred or anything like that, but what is driving us to make the decisions that we're making when we're voting? I think that this is one of the real things, is that when you look at illegal immigration, Biden just tried to give amnesty to 500,000 illegals. You can look that up. So I think we have to really think about the choices we have to make. I know I'm voting Trump. I don't care that, someone says, oh, you're a black man and you're supposed to do what we say. No, I do what I think I should do. And I do what I think is right for my family. I do what I think is right for my country, right? And those are the things we have to consider. So I hope that you consider those, and I hope that this video helps you understand a little bit about what's happening out there in the world. But anyway, thanks for joining me today. Please like, share, subscribe to hear more from the right angle. And as always, stay curious, ask questions, think critically, and you will find the truth.